Everyone has a spot in God's garden, the stratification and triage of life and its necessity to environmental ethics by Andy Hansen. Value is defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary as relative worth, utility, or importance. This definition in itself is anthropocentric. As such, many approaches and facets within environmental ethics deal with the establishment and stratification of value. The two types of value are instrumental and intrinsic. Instrumental value is the value something has in terms of its usefulness as a means to an end or achieving another goal, while intrinsic value is the value in and of itself, and it is value that is not instrumental. Instrumental value is pretty easy to recognize. An example would be water being vital to life. Instrumental value is often anthropocentric as we assign the value that is most useful to us. Uh, Most exploitation of nature comes from instrumental values, such as the timber industry. Intrinsic value is the value something has for existing. There are two types of intrinsic value presented by Keccogh Lee. They are articulated intrinsic value, which is the intrinsic value expressed by human beings due to their unique consciousness. This value is subjective and anthropocentric, as most values are human projectivism that cannot exist without human consciousness. The other one being mutely enacted intrinsic value. This is intrinsic value present in all nature, both biotic and abiotic, existing independently of human consciousness. When defining value, there are two separate trains of thought. Value subjectivism states that all value is created by human consciousness, therefore it is innately anthropogenic or created by humans, but does not always have to be anthropocentric, centered on humans. While value objectivism states that non-instrumental value is not determined by humans and is already present within the world, therefore it is not created but recognized by people. Once value is established, the next step is value hierarchies. In almost every approach to environmental ethics, there exist value hierarchies that seek to stratify and categorize organisms and ecosystems in a manner befitting their overall worth or value and its relationships to others in the hierarchy. Each hierarchy is structured differently depending on the approach and what is valued above others. While an anthropocentric approach would place man at the top of a hierarchy, the holistic environmental approach would place an ecological whole at the top, such as the rainforest. Some hierarchies are limited to only biotic members of a community, and some may be even limited further to organisms displaying desire over those of instinct. Our first hierarchy will be anthropocentric. Anthropocentric hierarchies will always place man or the needs of man at the top of the pyramid. This is often at odds with what environmental ethics seek to do in understanding and approaching the natural world. However, this is often necessary, such as in the case of antibiotics. In an individual deontological hierarchy, an individual bacteria would be valued equivalently to a person, as both organisms exhibit the will to live. Which then organism's needs should be superseded by the other? Anthropocentric hierarchies are often subject to speciesism and human supremacy. Individual consequentialist hierarchies. Individual consequentialists value the organism over the environmental whole. However, the state of affairs within the organism is considered more valuable than the organism itself. Utilitarianism plays a huge role in the consequentialist approach, an animal liberation used by Peter Singer, in reference to the Western approach of raising and farming animals. These ideas would form a hierarchy that would favor organisms that exhibit desire and pleasure or avoidance of pain. yet excluded plants and invertebrates as they lack this capacity of desire. In Nature's Interest by Gary Varner, he touches on the ethical implications of non-sentient animals and plants. While Singer's philosophy maintains that these only have instrumental value, Varner's biocentric individualism includes non-sentient life. However, these desires are more instinctual self-preservation than that of actual desire for pleasure or avoidance of pain. Biocentric individualism has 5 facets. They are as follows. Number 1, nothing at or below the level of a fish possesses desires. Number 2, nevertheless, all living things possess biological needs, and these needs are plausibly construed as interests. Number 3, the welfare of an organism is, at least in part, to be understood in terms of interests rather than the desires of O. Number 4, therefore all living things have a welfare. And finally, number 5, therefore all living things are morally considerable. Individual deontological hierarchies. In these, focus is placed on the individual's intrinsic or inherent value, not linked to experience. The organism itself is valuable, not just the processes within it. Still individualistic, so no value is ascribed to ecological wholes, such as species, beyond the added value of all the individuals within the species. While early individual deontologists such as Albert Schweitzer and Paul Taylor asserted that all living beings were equal, later deontologists tried to stratify this, such as Louis Lombardi. This approach fails to account for diversity or ecological wholes, and it also creates several moral conflicts in consideration of all beings equal, such as the justification of predation, the stratification of life in itself. Are we equal to single-celled organisms, and so on. It's demonstrated in the next video on the next slide how this isn't really applicable to life sometimes.
I sure do hope I get that raise all these hours I've been putting in.
Me too. I've been here more than I've been home. I deserve some recognition. I have a few announcements to make. I would like to recognize someone in this room that has put in work round the clock and is quite frankly essential to what we do here and many other aspects of our life we probably don't even realize. Everyone, let's give it up. Plants. What?
No one here has worked nearly as hard or as long providing us with clean air in the office, and in accordance with Albert Schweitzer's will to live, and all living beings are equal in value in his individual deontological approach, this houseplant is Employee of the Month.
Holistic environmental hierarchies. In these, the focus shifts from the individual to ecological wholes, and the emphasis is on the good of the whole. The holistic movement began with a Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold, in which he expressed a land ethic, and this was really the first time that ethics had been extended to an abiotic community, such as the land in itself, soils and things like that. These ideas were furthered by J. Baird Callicott. In opposition to individualists, he stated that ethical behavior evolved in people as part of a community, as this furthered the biotic equilibrium. Emphasis moves to an even larger community in James Lovelock's Gaia principle, in which he focuses on the earth and some of the things that he calls the vital organs within the earth, which are prokaryotic bacteria, deep sea algae, and the rainforest be considered as organs within this grand scheme. It focuses on the maintaining equilibrium and what it means for present life. Some criticism of these is that it focuses too much on the whole and not enough on the individual. In conclusion, within each and every approach, there maintains a constant need to categorize and triage biotic and abiotic factors. Value hierarchies are eclectic and situational. I think that a degree of pluralism must be applied in each approach, as nature and ethics are both a shade of gray. And maintaining a constant rigid hierarchy would not be applicable in every situation. I believe it changes, where an apocentric hierarchy would be more advantageous at times than a holistic environment, and vice versa, depending on what situation you are encountering.